Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Carolyn Coca-Ross, and today I'm talking about how do you heal guilt about things that you've done in the past. So if you are struggling with binge eating disorder, food addiction, compulsive overeating, or emotional eating, there may be things that you've done in the past that you're ashamed of. So today we're going to be talking about the difference between shame and guilt, for example, and whether guilt is helpful or is shame helpful, and then some things that you can do about both of those. So stay with me. I'm going to start by asking you if you've ever blamed yourself for something you think you should have done, something you think you shouldn't have done, or maybe you blamed yourself for the last binge or for not living up to your values or goals for the future. You may even blame a younger part of yourself for something that happened to you when you were a child. All of these are normal, especially if you have binge eating, food addiction, or emotional eating. It kind of goes with the territory. So I get a lot of questions about guilt and shame. One of them came to me and said, is it possible to overcome the shame and feelings of failure that I have around my eating issues? Another person asked me, I feel like I'm an emotional eater, and I feel like even when I have lost a little bit of weight, I sabotage myself, which just adds more to the guilt that's already there. So you may be identifying with those sentiments, and if so, that's pretty common. Any time that you've experienced guilt about your behaviors relating to food or body image issues, it's something that many of us can identify with. So let's start by talking about the difference between shame and guilt. Guilt is really a normal feeling, and it can happen to anyone when we do something we shouldn't have done, or if we don't do something that we think we should have done. Guilt is a powerful emotion, and it can motivate us to make changes, to make amends, or to make different decisions in the future. Now, shame comes when we measure ourselves against our own values or moral standards and we come up short. So guilt is like saying, I did a bad thing, but shame is saying, I am a bad person. Shame and guilt, though, can go hand in hand. They're very, very common. For example, you can feel guilty about your last binge and also feel shame that despite being successful in so many areas of your life, you feel like a failure when it comes to your food and body image issues or your eating behaviors. So these twin emotions can make you feel like you're stuck in a vicious cycle, going around and around and around, always feeling bad about yourself. And there are some common beliefs that can help keep you stuck in guilt or shame. For example, the belief, I should have known better, or the belief, I am a bad person. I'm a failure is another belief. Or if my boss, my friends, my family knew what I did, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with me. You may also have the belief that you're not worthy, that you don't deserve to feel any better. So these are all beliefs that can keep you stuck in that vicious cycle of shame and guilt about your behaviors. And here are some of the reasons that we hold on to guilt and shame. First of all, you may be thinking, well, if I keep holding on to guilt or shame, I can keep myself from doing the same thing again. Or you may be thinking, holding on to guilt or shame about, for example, the loss of a loved one can help honor their memory. And that's not such a bad thing unless it keeps you stuck and keeps you in that vicious cycle of overeating or binging or purging. Some people also feel like guilt or shame gives them a reason to explain why something happened to them. So it gives them a sense of control. In other words, if I do something different, then this won't happen again. And there are many other reasons why you may be holding on to guilt or shame. But if you are, it's important to look at those reasons. Like, what are you getting out of holding on to guilt or shame? And you may be thinking, well, of course I'm not getting anything. I feel miserable. But again, there's always a little bit of a backstory there, like the reasons I just mentioned. So self-compassion is the only antidote to guilt and shame. By recognizing that we're all human and therefore we all make mistakes, that everyone does things they're not proud of. And I've shared this in past videos that I myself have had, guilt or shame feelings about things that I've done in the past. So it's common because we're all human. If we admit that we all make mistakes, then we can begin to heal from guilt and shame. So by kind of not making yourself this special person who has to keep beating yourself up, you can just take a break and say, okay, I did something I'm not proud of, but I am only human and I'm trying to do better the next time. So healthy guilt can motivate you to make important changes in your life, but unhealthy guilt comes from having really unrealistically high expectations of yourself, that you should be perfect, as we've talked about in past videos. And you can never meet those unrealistically high expectations. So if you're suffering from unhealthy guilt because you think you should have been Superwoman, or you should have known something that nobody in the world could possibly have known, then that's an example of unhealthy guilt. And you may want to step back from that and ask yourself what you want to do to heal and whether you're ready to let go of that unhealthy guilt. Now, many people with binge eating, compulsive overeating, emotional eating, or food addiction have had childhood trauma, and childhood trauma or abuse can also lead us to have beliefs like the ones that I mentioned before, that we're not worthy or not lovable, or or that we're a failure. But again, self-compassion can help us heal from these beliefs. Now, as you know, I'm a big fan of giving you things to journal about or to think about. And so today I'd like to encourage you to journal and think about two things. One is, what is no longer working for you about holding on to guilt or shame? So maybe in the past, there were some reasons why you did that, but now you're starting to realize that you are stuck in that vicious cycle of feeling bad about yourself and then binging and then feeling even more guilty, or doing something that you're ashamed of and then continuing to feel the shame around that, which makes you want to overeat or binge. So that question, what is no longer working for me about holding on to guilt or shame? The second question is, how would it benefit you to work on this issue? How would it benefit you to work on this issue? So if you're ready to start working on this issue, I would encourage you to join me for my webinar, How to Stop Feeling Crazy About Food. It holds 3 keys that I think are very important, and I think you would really benefit from if you are in the position where you're thinking that you no longer want to be stuck in that vicious cycle. So see the link below and join me for that webinar, How to Stop Feeling Crazy Around Food. Now, the next show, we're going to answer the question, will I ever be able to have control and heal from my food and body image issues? So please join me for that next video in the self-compassion series. Please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification icon to get notified immediately to upload the next video. I look forward to seeing you then. Remember, this is all the work of recovery. Join me next time. Bye.